Hello and welcome to another episode of Eat, Smoke, Drink. I always say it that today is an exciting review because every time I review whiskey it is bloody exciting. But today is truly an exciting review, one for rarity and exclusivity. So today I'm going to review, yep, that's right, it is a $2,000 to $2,500 USD bottle of whiskey. That's $2,000 to $2,500 USD bottle of whiskey. So yeah, it's absolute insanity. The rarity of it, you can't just buy it in the shop. You have to fight for it in an auction if you win it, which means obviously the price is going to go up. If you're in the US, the tariffs you have to pay and the taxes and everything. And by the end of it, it's about $2,000 to $2,500. Now look, today I'm reviewing the Rare Malt Glenury Royale. That's a Rare Malt Glenury Royale. 23 years old, 61.3%, and I will have the exact barcode at the bottom here because that's how you can find the exact Rare Malt bottling. Yeah, look, this is a 1971 23-year-old Glenury Royale Rare Malt. A little bit about Glenury Royale. Glenury Royale was shut down in 85. 85 gone, so whatever bottle is left that's it from 85. And to have the Royal beside it, it had to be bestowed by a royal, king, prince, queen. I think it's just a king and queen. To say, yep, I'm going to give you the title royal. And this is one of those whiskies that's been given the title royal. But that doesn't say anything really. It's just more probably the guy knew the king, and they've known each other way back. So that's why they got given that. But this is a closed distillery, extremely rare. And it is cask strength as well. So some of the Glenury Royals you get out there have been watered down to obviously stretch it out. And what I find with that is that when you're buying something this premium, you might as well go all out and go cask strength, because if you don't, then you're not getting that. Well, you're not getting the full glory of the barrel. So that's what it is. And Rare Malts is owned by Diageo. Rare Malts have developed a bit of a following lately because obviously the Rare Malts, and Diageo has access to some pretty cool barrels. I don't think they're releasing any new ones lately, which is a shame, but yeah, so this one here, very excited to try, and I want to thank Paul the Pink Panther for giving me a bit of this sample. And you're probably wondering why I only have one glass today. I am saving the rest of this because I am pairing it with a Cohiba Behike 52, something equally as exclusive and luxurious for this. Look, because I haven't reviewed a Behike yet. Secondly, because it was just my birthday, so I'm going to have it as a celebratory cigar. But thirdly, because it's a Cohiba Behike matching with a Glenury Royale. So anyway, let's get nosing, let's get tasting. The nose does not feel like it is a 61%. Now I'm not sure, I didn't look up if it's a bourbon cask or a sherry cask or a combination of both, because from my understanding this is not a single cask, but that doesn't matter, it's all about what you taste anyway. I'm guessing there is a big influence of bourbon cask in there. I'm getting a strong vanillin, I'm getting a strong sickly coconut from the quintessential bourbon, but the nose is relatively mellow but very pleasant. It's got a fragrance to it. I'm getting rose water, a red cedar, like a humidor cedar. I'm getting a chalky note to that as well, a slight spice. What kind of spice is that? White pepper, a little bit of black pepper. I'm getting a menthol, brown sugar syrup. Very pleasant on the nose. Very pleasant on the nose. But what I'm getting is that the smell is very well integrated, which is really nice. It's not overly old. It's only 23, but the fragrance is very integrated, which is really good. Usually you get that extreme integration of smells with older whiskeys, slightly older whiskeys, but obviously every bottle is different when it comes to this kind of level. This is not your distillery bottlings where you know, 10,000 of them smells the same, like a Glenfiddich 30 or something like that. This is not like that. This is pretty finite, pretty bespoke. Each bottle is pretty different. I'm getting a bit of sandalwood in there. I'm getting a very light tannin, like an oolong tea tannin. Cherry jam. I'm just concentrating now. I'm just trying to give this the time it deserves. Something like this, you can't really rush it. The nose isn't overly confusing. The nose is relatively focused in its flavors. It's not like it has some random ass stuff in there. I'm getting a pine resin as well. Quite a strong pine resin. You know when you pick up a pine cone or pine needles and then you get that sap on your hands? I'm getting quite a bit of that as well. It reminds me of walking through an alpine forest, you know, the pine trees around you, the wood, the leaf litter, the slightly acidic leaf litter. Absolutely stunning on the nose. Absolutely a pleasure. Holy moly. 6 to 1.3. You feel it, but not adversely. The mouthfeel coats the mouth and permeates. It's almost like that small sip I just did. It's like sucking on a lolly, like a lollipop. It's like someone, and I've had this before, but I just remember now. The flavor is so intense and so pronounced. And I'm not talking about alcohol, I'm talking about the flavor and the heat, the fire, the everything. It's like someone putting a vacuum packer on your tongue and mouth and just going, you know, just vacuuming, packing your mouth. And the flavor is just intense. It just goes boom, just into your mouth. Intensity. Let me just have a think about it when I'm tasting here. It is absolutely intense. The flavor is through the roof. Is it perfectly balanced? Hell no. That's what's the beautiful thing about it. It's not about easy drinking. It's about interesting drinking. Is it challenging? A little bit, but not too much that it's gonna confuse your palate too much. If you're used to drinking very rare top shelf kind of single barrel whiskies, it's not going to confuse you, so don't worry about that. It's just more the flavor so pronounced. My mouth is still permeating with that flavor. It's oily, heavily resiny. It's chewy. The mouthful is nothing like I've ever had. And that's what I love about the rare malt bottlings, and I'm hopefully having a few more rare malt bottlings being reviewed in the coming time. But rare malt bottlings, they always choose the bottlings that are just like, wow. Let's just try it again. Wow. There's a distinct floral note to it. Like a concentrated honeysuckle. Honey. Caramelized brown sugar. A hint of herbalness. I'm talking licorice, tarragon, a little bit of rosemary, menthol. The menthol is strong. It's like it's like the cooling of your throat and mouth. It's like the menthol is very strong in there. And I promise I didn't add any menthol in there. I'm getting a little bit of fruitcake spice, but I don't want to jump to conclusions if this is a sherry cask or partial sherry cask or not. But I am getting a little bit of cinnamon in there as well. It's an extremely complex whiskey, and of course I wouldn't recommend something like this if you're not used to these kind of whiskies. Why? Because it will just confuse you. And some people go, oh, it's not very smooth. It's not smooth. It's not meant to be smooth. It's meant to be compelling, and that's what it is. I always compare it to having a sweet and sour pork, Hong Kong cuisine. It's kind of like a European Chinese cuisine, or having a bowl of Sichuan noodles. A bowl of Sichuan noodles is always going to be much more in your face in flavor. It's not well balanced, not easy to eat, but when you get used to it, man, it is highly rewarding. And this is the kind of whiskey that falls in that category. I'm getting a slight bittersweet, a bitterness to it. I'm getting a lime pith, lime rind, slight bitterness to it, like bittersweet, like a raw cocoa, like a cacao. You know, when you bite into a cacao or a really, really dark chocolate, like 85% up, you've got that bittersweet, slight saltiness taste going on. But man, I can't explain it enough. I don't know if I'm conveying it, but the mouthfeel is just, it's like wax coating your mouth, oil, resin. It's like being varnished with this mouthfeel. The finish is long, it just doesn't end, and it's just compounding. Like every sip that I make, it just keeps building on itself. It is absolutely astonishing. And look, I know there's a lot of hype out there with closed distilleries. A lot of people go, oh, you know, closed distilleries used to be shit and now it's good because of closed distilleries. Well, look, yes and no. I mean, I've had a couple of Port Allens in the past, and some of the Port Allens can be hit and miss, and some of them are excellent. Of course, like any bottling, some of them are not as good as the other. But when it comes to closed distilleries, what makes them super special are a few things. You're drinking a part of history, you know, a part of history. Some of them has gone through a very colored background. You know, they got bombed in the war, and then they reopened, and then they got bought out, and you know, that's a royalty put in some money in there because they loved it and all that stuff. But when it comes to these kind of bottlings, what makes them super special is the old style of whiskey that they don't really make anymore, right? The old stills, the old condensers, the worm tubs, the way they malt, floor malt, the way they, even the malt they buy are probably, you know, some of the new whiskies, they're getting probably GMO malt, which is made for maximum production. While these ones, they're probably just malt grown for the distillery by a few farmers down the road. And so what gives you that unique experience is you are drinking something very old-fashioned. Having have shut in 1985 and being distilled in 1971, how old is that? 71. So that was 50 years ago. So about 50 years ago, 1971, what you're drinking is something, a snapshot of history. And they don't make whiskies like this anymore. And I'm a big fan of Springbank, yes, but eventually everyone still modernizes to a degree. And the only way you can capture that lack of modernization is with closed distilleries, because they're the only ones that shut before modernization started. So, look, thank you for joining me today. And cigar pairings, I'm going to pair this with something extremely luxurious, a Cohiba Behike 52. Why? Because one, it's luxurious. Two, it's quintessential Cuban cigar on steroids. So it'll withstand the flavors of this, and that's what I'm going to pair it with. You can pair it with whatever you like. I think this will withstand pretty much most cigars out there. It's a pretty robust, punchy whiskey. You can still buy this. The Whiskey Exchange has it. Auctions have it. But you are going to be paying a minimum of £1,000 before shipping, taxes, packaging, everything. And at £1,000, your shipping is going to cost a lot for insurance. So yes, $2,000 to $2,500 USD. Would I buy it again? If I won the lottery, definitely. But obviously I can't just fork out $2,500 for a bottle of whiskey. So once again, thank you for generous benefactors for giving me a sample. Until next time, make sure you eat, smoke, you drink. Cheers.